the best Resident Evil bosses. Take a look back at the game franchise with our guide to the best Resident Evil bosses. Tyrant. The T-Virus does some nasty things to people, but to a select few, it turns them into a nightmare monster called the Tyrant. There are many different types from throughout the franchise, and many of them have exposed spines and hearts that you can use to take them down. It's not going to be easy though. Dowler. This giant water beast began life as a salamander. It was infected with the Las Plagas virus and transformed into a sea creature in Resident Evil 4. He feasted on bodies and caused Leon to be dragged across a lake. You'd better make sure you have a lot of harpoons handy if you're going to fight him. He can sneak up on you from underwater, so be prepared. Trevor. Trevor is one of those Resident Evil bosses you hope you don't run into. Poor Trevor. If she wasn't trying to kill you, you'd feel terrible for her. Lisa's father was asked to design a mansion outside of Raccoon City for Umbrella Corporation. While he was up there, Lisa and her mother were infected with the progenitor virus. Her father starved to death and her mother was killed. 14-year-old Lisa was mutated by the virus and kept around for study. Umbrella Corp kept sending people disguised as Lisa's mother to comfort her, who was in the middle of a plot to get them both out. But Lisa never believed any of them were real. She ripped off their faces and attached them to her body. She was mentioned in the earlier games, but in the remastered Resident Evil on the GameCube, you got to fight her. She couldn't be killed until the mansion was blown to smithereens. Yawn. Yawn is a very terrifying addition to the Resident Evil Bosses Guide. Yawn is from the original game as well, and is still a favorite. Looking back at the first game all these years later, it's hard to remember how scary he was, but when the game came out, this giant snake was terrifying. You had to fight this T-Virus infected beastie in multiple parts of the mansion before you finally killed him in the attic. Nemesis. Nemesis is the only one of the Resident Evil bosses who has a movie named after him. In Resident Evil 3, you'll have to fight Nemesis, a type of intelligent tyrant. This horrifying creature with the drawn-back lips also has a tentacle that can kill. Depending on your choices in the game, there are a number of ways to take him down, but not before he infects Jill with the T-Virus. He also has a multi-tentacled form which, though less intelligent, is a horror to beat. Gigante. Gigante is, appropriately, one of the biggest Resident Evil bosses. This boss from Resident Evil the 4th of may remind you of a certain cave troll from Lord of the Rings, but Gigante is tough to beat. He is huge. So big, in fact, that he uses a tree as a weapon. There are more than one of these guys and they mutated after receiving the Las Plagas virus. Make sure you never let this guy corner you, or you won't like the result. Alexia Ashford. The Resident Evil boss's guide wouldn't be complete without her. This lady and her brother were created using DNA of a long-dead ancestor. When Alexia and Alfred found out that their father did this to them, they turned him into a monster called Nosferatu with the T. Veronica virus she'd been developing. As she learned more about the virus, she injected it into herself and put herself into cryogenic sleep, letting the virus slowly take over and give her superpowers. When she wakes, and witnesses her brother's death, she is turned into something new and very hard to beat. Alexia has 3 different forms, all of them terrifying. Uroboros is another important one of the Resident Evil bosses. This ball of writhing bits is a difficult one to kill. You have to move non-stop or risk becoming toast. Though Uroboros is the name of the virus in Resident Evil 5, Uroboros is the mutated form of Giant, which you have to fight. Though the battle is a pain, at least the little tentaclets that she drops give you items when they're killed. Krauser. Though Jack Krauser used to serve with Leon S. Kennedy, he left to pursue a career with Albert Wesker. He tries to steal a sample of the last Plague's virus in Resident Evil 4. He's got a huge, mutated arm that is tough to battle. The quick-time events in the Krauser battles aren't super simple either.
So, you two are all hooked up now. Because beyond that gate pretty much means you're on a tight leash. What do you intend to do restoring Umbrella? To bring order and balance to this insane world of ours.
Wesker. Wesker is one of the Resident Evil bosses who appears in both the games and the film series. Albert Wesker, played in the films by Sean Roberts and Jason O'Mara, is the big bad of the series, though your battles with him aren't quite as difficult as some of the other ones. Wesker is introduced in the first game as the captain of the SDARS unit, though that is just a cover. He's really working for Umbrella Corp's rival and sent in the SDARS unit to gather data on the combat abilities of the Tyrant. In Resident Evil Code Veronica, he's taken the virus and given himself superpowers. We learn his history with Umbrella Corp and the virus back in the Resident Evil 0 prequel game. In Resident Evil 5 we learn that he's working on the Uroboros virus for Tricho, though he meets his end in a volcano. We even get to see his son Jake Muller in Resident Evil 6. Will we see him again in some form? Only time will tell. Which one is your favorite? Was the one that didn't make the list that you love? We want to know.